Greetings and welcome to our solar seminar. My name is David Stitt, and I am President and CEO of the Stitt Group and Stitt Solar in Rogers, Arkansas. We like to do these seminars a couple times a year to keep our customer base and people in our region informed about energy and solar and building science and things that are part of our business offering. And a seminar is a great way to dispel myth and to make sure that our customers have the single source of truth and knowledge that they need to make good decisions. Um, there have been a lot of solar companies in the last probably 2 to 4 years that have come and gone. And our industry is suffering from a bit of distrust. And so we believe wholeheartedly in solar. We know it is a solution to climate problems. We know it's a affordable and great technology for producing clean energy for homes and businesses. And we want to make sure that people understand what it's all about. So that's why we do these seminars, and we're glad you could join us today. We do these in person. We've had a number of people that have asked that we share these in an electronic format. So we're recording this today that we can share that with others who were not able to attend in person. So with that being said, let's jump in and get started. First thing we like to do is understand what our customers want to know, or the people attending this webinar. It's often that we in our industry and most industries have what we call the curse of knowledge. We have lots of information and lots of knowledge that we like to accumulate. And in many cases, we need that knowledge to do our jobs well, but it may not be what our customers want to hear. So we want to know what our customers are trying to learn. And so that's where we start. This is an accumulation of the information that our customers have asked for. So we'll jump into what we call Solar 101. Solar 101 is the basic premise of how solar works. We'll talk about Arkansas specifically, but what's happening here in the state of Arkansas is also happening around the country and even around the world. And then we'll wrap up with some information about our company. Solar 101. So how does solar work? To begin, the sun is 93 million miles from this planet, and yet every day the sun comes up and there's light that travels 93 million miles through the atmosphere and hits the planet Earth. And in that light, there are many, many tiny bits of energy called photons. And photons hit solar modules, which consist of many solar cells. And when that happens, when those photons collide with those solar modules, the photons hitting the top layer of a solar cell cause the electrons to flow through the bottom layer. The collision actually releases the electrons on the backside of that. And that quiver, or what I like to call the quiver of those electrons, creates a tiny bit of direct current. So that electricity, although it's very small in that quiver of electrons creating direct current, accumulates in all these solar cells and then is aggregated through many solar cells and many solar panels and ultimately solar arrays in very large amounts of energy. So this electricity, which is now direct current, is then inverted from direct current to AC. In most cases, direct current can be used for some things, but generally AC current is what we use in our homes and businesses. So the inverter inverts the direct current into AC, or alternating current, that a building can use. The other question we get all the time is about, where do I put my solar panels? Naturally, the south is always the best because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And so the south gives us the most exposure on that plane of the roof. But we also understand that there may be trees, there may be aesthetics, there may be building limitations on the south side. So with the technology today, we can absolutely put solar on the east, the west, and the south. And in some cases, particularly if it's a shallow pitch roof or a flat roof, we can put it facing somewhat north. In the early days of solar, when solar was quite a bit more expensive in the price per watt, we did not want to put it on anything but the south. But as the prices have come down, if we can produce some additional energy on the east and the west, as well as the south, then it makes the solar array meet the needs of the building or the owner's objectives. So understanding sunrise, sunset, and sun angles is important. And we design systems based on that, generally based on an customer's utility bill. This is a great video. This is a product we use. Early on, there was concern, and still is today, about roof leaks, that we put a solar array on the rooftop, a shingle roof or metal roof, or even a membrane roof. And certainly the customers do not want roof leaks. So the solar industry is an incredibly innovative and creative industry. And there have been a number of products that have come along that make the installation of roof-mounted solar arrays much faster, but also make them less susceptible to roof leaks. And we, over the life of our company, I won't say we've never had a roof leak, but the incidence of roof leaks are very, very low. And if it's a problem, it's usually because we missed something, we missed a rafter, or there's some minor problem, and we certainly will stand behind the installation if there's a roof leak. But I would say the overall incidence of roof leaks on solar arrays is very, very low, and the products are extremely good. Question we also get is about hail. We certainly live in an area where we have hailstorms. And I always like to joke that we get more panels damaged each year from freight companies and forklifts than we do from hail. So all joking aside, hail is a reality in our world. Solar panels have been developed and designed to withstand the weather events around the globe, literally. So generally speaking, a solar panel will withstand hail up to 3 inches and about 80 miles an hour. Part of this is also because a solar panel very rarely ever gets a direct hit. It's typically a glancing blow. It's coming from the side or at an angle where it's not a direct hit. Although it does happen, it happens a few times each year. So a couple things to know about that. Number one, no matter what, we recommend that if someone installs a solar array on their home or business, that they add it to their insurance policy. It is important. It's typically not a large premium, if any, increase, but it's good to have that on the policy. The second thing we like to tell people is that remembering that if you have a solar array, say 1 or 2 panels in your total array. Array is a collection of solar panels. So if you had an array of 20 panels, 20 panels would be called an array. And a single panel might get damaged within that array, or maybe 2. And those 2 or 3 panels might have to be changed, but not the whole array. In addition to that, all the racking that mounts the solar array to your roof or the building, the wiring, the labor, the inverters, much of that system does not need to be replaced. There may be 1 or 2 panels, and in many cases, that doesn't even hit the deductible required by your insurance company. So it's not a large expense, and much of what was installed is undamaged. The one other thing that does happen is if a hail storm comes through, there may be damage to the roof, the shingle roof or the metal or even a membrane roof, where the solar array needs to be removed, physically removed from the roof. And in that case, we do need to remove the entire array, so all the panels. We need to remove the racking, which is the metal structure that the panels sit on, the feet, and there's some of the wiring that needs to be done, and that's a much more involved process. So we do that regularly. We'll remove the panels from the roof, coordinate with the roofers so that they can re-roof, add the new roofing to the building, and then we'll come back sometime later and reinstall the whole system and get it set up and commissioned again. So it is important to understand that hail doesn't only affect the panel, but it could affect the roof. and we're qualified to help our customers work through that as well. Net metering. This is an interesting topic. Net metering. Many people, I think, have heard the term. I don't know if everyone truly understands how it works, so we'll take a moment here and just talk about that. Net metering allows, through a bidirectional meter, allows energy that is produced and the electricity that is produced on your rooftop to flow from the building back across the meter. Now, electricity that comes from the grid or the building can be metered. So if it's coming from the utility company across the meter, you're charged for it. If the electricity is coming from your solar array across the meter going back to the utility, you would get credit for it. Now, the rates that you would be either charged or credited vary depending on state, utility, and it's all based on what's called a utility tariff. Traditionally, there was what was called a 1-for-1, meaning if you bought energy or electricity from the utility at 10 cents a kilowatt hour and it came across the meter, you were charged 10 cents. If it went from the building back across the meter, you would be credited 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Well, much of that's changed. It's a politically charged topic. And what is mostly happening in the country now is when you buy electricity from the grid, let's say you're charged 10 cents, that per kilowatt hour price varies wildly from state to state and utilities around the country. But let's just use 10 cents as our baseline. When you buy electricity from the grid, they charge you 10 cents. In most states now, if you send electricity from your solar array back across the meter, it's often somewhere around 2 or 3 cents. And there's what's called avoided cost. And there's much debate about which side is right on that. And that'd be like another 10 seminars worth of conversation. But nonetheless, we'll just say that that's generally what's happening right now, is that you buy at retail, you sell at avoided cost. So the biggest thing we see happening in the marketplace right now is the advent of batteries, single batteries, now even multiple batteries. And what that allows the customer to do is produce energy on their rooftop and store it in a battery on site for use at night, or maybe a few minutes later, whenever the demand requires it, that they can put that electricity in that battery, store the energy for a bit, and then bring it right back. It's a very, very interesting development, and it's becoming much, much more affordable. And not only does that help with the performance of the investment, but if the grid goes down, those batteries function as your source of backup power. So battery systems are growing. We again see, installing 1, maybe 2 batteries. That has been the norm, but the more and more they become mainstream, and as price comes down, people are adding, a second and a third and even a 4th battery. So battery storage will be a significant development in the coming years. The other thing that's going to happen, and it's certainly happened in other states, it's coming to Arkansas almost certainly, is what we call time of use metering. And so the utilities will charge a premium during certain hours when energy is most desirable. So if everyone comes home from work at 6 o'clock, and the dishwasher and the oven and water heaters and maybe plug in your EV, all those things start happening, there's certainly a spike in demand for energy at certain times of the day. Well, utilities will, and probably appropriately so, charge a premium for energy that is consumed during peak periods. So a battery will allow us to program the demands of that battery when rates are the highest. So for example, if the cost of electricity from midnight until 6 a.m. is at a low, we could charge the battery off the grid when rates are low. And then during the day when rates peak, we can program the battery to discharge the battery into the house and avoid connection with the grid during those times, which again enhances the quality of that investment and allows us to be very nimble and move as rates and as the grid rate tariffs change. So look for a lot of technology and advancement in batteries going forward. Generally speaking, we're going to buy at full retail and we're going to sell to them at avoided cost or a version of what you might call wholesale rates. This advent has spurred what we call installing systems behind the meter, meaning install a system on the customer side of the meter, never interface with the grid. So imagine that we put solar on the rooftop or out in the field in the backyard. We have a battery, and so we have a closed loop there. You can see in that top picture. What that allows us to do is to produce electricity from the solar array, use it in the building, store excess in the battery, and operate much of the time in that environment. There will certainly be times when we need the grid, and then in those events, we can pull from the grid to charge the battery or supplement what we don't get from the solar or the battery. I think it's worth mentioning this. I don't think we as companies see the grids going away. There should be a healthy and productive relationship between the utility and the clean energy industry, because frankly, we need each other. And I think that's one of the things that's happened over the last 5 years, where there were companies in our solar industry that were in the business only to make an exorbitant profit. And they were more like finance companies and less like solar companies. And naturally, utilities were put in a very, very difficult spot because there's a lot of misinformation being spewed about the utility companies, much of which was not true. And so the fact there's a defensive posture is probably quite understandable, but being able to do systems behind the meter and have a positive interface with the grid is good for all. The next, on the bottom of that slide, there's what we call a virtual power plant. Virtual power plants are fascinating in that if the grid reaches maximum capacity and cannot handle the demands and they consider a brownout or a blackout, the idea, the concept of a virtual power plant is to have solar and batteries deployed in homes and businesses throughout the marketplace. And there's an agreement between the grid and all these individual power plants, solar and battery customers, where they can tap, the utility can tap into those assets and pull energy from those batteries at time of need. And the customers would be compensated at a rate for that. So, we build power plants to take peak demand. So when we look at what's the maximum capacity the customer base needs, be that again hospitals, manufacturing, industrial, the utility has to cover all those needs all the time. But they're built for this peak demand. What's the maximum capacity? Well, if the virtual power plant can lower the base demand, then the utilities can handle more of that peak demand. So it's a way of distributing some of that generation. And the most interesting part of this whole thing is that virtual power plants can be deployed quickly. We can install solar and batteries on homes and businesses around this country quickly, much, much more quickly than a utility can go out and build a gas plant or a nuclear plant or other sources of generating energy. So again, this partnership between the solar industry and the utility is quite important, and I believe it will grow. This is a bit of an example of what that might look like. You can see in the upper left, there's a power plant with 2 stacks and kind of a purple color. That's a traditional model. The traditional model says we produce energy and then we put it in lines, high voltage lines to substations, and substations out to the clients and the customers who need the energy. it's not a viable long-term solution. It will still be there because there will still be people that need the energy from that power plant, but those plants are going to need to be cleaner. Remembering too that much of that energy that is produced in a power plant is lost before it ever gets to the end user through line loss and just inefficiencies in that process. So if we look in the periphery of that and we see solar, wind, battery storage on buildings, and if you could just imagine for a moment that every house in the country has a small array, it may not be 100% of their needs, but it's a small array with a battery, then the amount of energy that needs to be produced from that power plant becomes very small. It's still in capacity a lot, but it's a lot less than what it is today. So it's distributing that generation instead of from one single source to a number of different sources. When we design a system, solar array, we consider the building. Is it going to be a ground-mounted array? Are we putting panels on the roof? Is this going to be in the backyard? Is it going to be in a field? Is it going to be on a flat roof, a shingle roof, a metal roof? And we design a system based on the consumption of that facility. So we can then, based on the utility rates and the utility consumption and looking in the rearview mirror, we can design systems that will produce a certain amount of energy over the course of a year, knowing that there are times of the year where we can produce more and sometimes we'll produce less. But it allows the customer to understand the value of that investment, that we're going to offset or we're going to provide a certain percentage of their needs, their electric needs for their facility from the sun, and a certain amount would still come from the utility company. Equipment and warranties. So solar panels, solar inverters, much of the equipment that we install comes with a warranty from the manufacturer. We certainly have a labor and a workmanship warranty that we warranty that these products would be installed properly. But the actual equipment manufacturers will carry the warranty on their products. It's not uncommon that we see somewhere between 20 and 40 years as far as a warranty on solar modules. There's a production warranty, meaning they stand behind how much energy that panel will produce. There's also a product warranty. So will the glass withstand stand up for so many years, the frame, the wiring, that sort of thing. So there's a production, how much will it produce, warranty, and then there's also a product warranty. And so we go through that with our customers to make sure they understand the difference in each of those. We love this slide. We were talking one time in our office here about Yugos, and I realized my age because a number of people did not know what a Yugo was, as you guys may or may not remember. Yugos were a car that came onto the marketplace in the U.S. and it was very affordable, but it was also chronically broken down. It didn't run very good. It didn't last, and subsequently, I don't know what's happened with the company as of today. But in growing up, I remember the Yugo and I remember the problems, and it became a bit of a joke. And we like to compare that to another brand, a Subaru, that is very high quality. It's very reliable. It's very much a product that you can count on. And so we like to encourage people to understand wholeheartedly not only the company they're working for. Are they a company that has a long record of customer service? And have they been in the marketplace? Can they produce good examples of their work? And that they're well established, because our industry is one that is full of transformation and change, and we have to have a company with solid foundation to withstand that. So we like to compare ourselves to Subarus. We encourage people not to buy the cheapest product because it generally doesn't last over time. We'll take a minute here and talk about the future. This is a little bit like looking into the crystal ball, although we think our crystal ball is pretty clear because there are things happening that are certainly apparent and happening quickly before our eyes. Earlier in 2025, the One Big Beautiful Bill was passed into law, and it eliminated the solar investment tax credit. Um, we were at a conference in Las Vegas recently, and that was the topic of discussion that we thought it would probably all happen at some point, but it certainly happened more quickly than we anticipated. And having said that, there was also a bit of optimism that the industry has grown and has prospered with the tax credit. But I use the example that if you have a child that's riding a bike and they have training wheels on, and if you've ever ridden a bike with training wheels, you know you can only go so fast with training wheels. And there comes a point where you pull the training wheels off the bike, and you may fall and skin your knee a time or two, but almost immediately you start to go faster and you become better at riding your bike without the training wheels. And so I like to think of that as it relates to our tax credits. The tax credits were positioned and in place to help companies get solar off the ground to become more competitive, and I believe that's what's happened. But our industry will be healthier, it will be stronger, and it will grow more rapidly from a market cap, but also from a technology standpoint without the tax credit. So there's a transition. We are going to have some skin knees for a little bit, but the industry is already making provisions to help customers continue to get solar and to do it at an affordable price. Solar is undeniably the lowest cost and most quickly deployed source of energy right now, and it's clean. Meaning, if I want to do clean energy and I'm a utility, I can have solar up and running in 1 to 2 years. Massive solar arrays at a price that's less than the alternatives. A gas plant, 7 to 8 years before that could be opened. Nuclear, beyond that. Now, some of these will come down because of the technology advances in those industries as well. Hydrogen is there. It's expensive, and there's a long runway for that too. So solar is here. It's not going anywhere. It's an incredibly good option, and as we're going to show you in a few slides coming, it's going to be a great hedge against the rising cost of energy. The advent of artificial intelligence and the what's called electrification of America is undeniable. There's more electricity demand in the country than there has ever been, and therefore it will require upgrades to our infrastructure, transmission lines, you name it. And so the people that will pay for that are ratepayers. And we're already seeing that, particularly in Arkansas. There's one utility that's asked for a 27% rate increase. 1 to 3, 5% rate increases were not uncommon, that happened every so many years. And now to have a one-time 27% rate increases is unheard of. And we believe that's the first of many to come. So the cost the cost and value proposition of solar on your rooftop with battery storage over time is going to be a great investment. Here's another graph of what's happened with the cost of energy over time. This looks like it's the average price of electricity per kilowatt. It goes all the way back to probably late 70s, early 80s. But you can see the graph is up almost universally. There's a little dip here and there, but we believe that is the growth of the country over time. It did not come in. It doesn't account for what's happening in artificial intelligence and the need for data centers and the electrification of America. So there's not much doubt that the cost of energy is going up. The current energy infrastructure is struggling to keep pace with the rapidly growing demand for electricity. This is another example of that. You can see this over here on the right, the average U.S. power plant development timeline. Solar's, again, the most quickly deployed, and it's clean. You can see the number of years it takes to get a gas turbine, coal, or nuclear. One little side note to this that is going to happen, which is a bit unfortunate, in the effort to maintain the growth and development of artificial intelligence, there will probably be a number of coal plants that are currently scheduled to be turned off or shut down. They will probably last, they'll probably keep them online for years to come just to bridge the gap, which is unfortunate. But we also believe that technology will take care of some of that. This is a very interesting slide. This came from a show we were at. This is from Entergy in Arkansas, and they put this out, and it's very telling. But you can see in 2026 what the demands for energy are, and that blue line is total energy required is a trend line going up. Yet the production is going down, and the gap is the concern. You can see by 27, 28, 29, there's a huge gap in what we need in electric demand. And if basic economics say supply and demand, if the supply, if the demand keeps going up and the supply keeps going down, the prices are going to go up. That's without exception. So the gap is going to be made up with distributed generation, solar and batteries deployed quickly in the marketplace for the consumer's use. Electric bills, we talk a lot about electric bills. If you ask most people to walk through their electric bill, most people don't know, understandably don't understand how to read their electric bill, because there are volumetric charges, there are flat charges, there are riders, there are adders, there's a number of things. And that makes it challenging for the customer to understand what is the value proposition, or what does a solar array contribute. And so we try to help them understand what they're paying per month, how it's being charged, and then how a solar system contributes to offsetting that expense. This is an interesting bill. This is from another utility, but when there is a tornado or a hurricane or things happen, and there are transmission lines to be rebuilt, or infrastructure, substations, whatever that needs to be rebuilt, the customer is the one that has to help pay that, and this comes often in the form of a line item addition to the bill. You can see that in this case. We talk a lot around here about, do you want to rent your power or do you want to own your power? And we try to spin that into, how do you look at it as an investment? So if you're currently getting your energy from the utility company, you essentially have a variable rate of interest. There's no term, and there's no return on that investment, meaning the variable rate of interest, it's going to go up. If you're paying a certain rate today, it's going to be something more in a year and something more in 5 years. So we know it goes up over time. No one ever pays off their electric bill, meaning if you're living in your home or working in your business, you're going to pay that utility bill tomorrow and next month and next year and in 5 years and 10 years and in 20 years and 50 years, because it's a regular bill with no end. Therefore, there's no return on that investment, because it's a monthly bill. You're not investing anything. Conversely, if you think about solar energy, we can structure the purchase of solar through financing that will get your monthly bill similar to what you're paying from the utility company at a fixed term. So we could say, let's just, for example, you're paying $100 a month for electricity from the utility. We can get you close, not always exact, to that 100. Maybe it's $105, maybe it's $125, but it's at a fixed rate over time. It's not going to change over the term. So let's just say, for example, let's say you chose to finance your solar system over 20 years. And again, this is a system that typically has between a 30 and 35 year life expectancy. Now, there may be some maintenance and there may be an inverter or something that would need to be changed. But generally speaking, it's people believe and agree that 30 plus years is life expectancy of a solar array. So if you buy it and you have a fixed rate to pay each month, it's not going up over time. You have a fixed term of, for this example, 20 years. Then you can start to look at what's the return on my investment. And you own your power. You don't rent it. There's a few finance partners. There's several out there. One of the things that we really stress with our customers, no matter how you finance your system, we want to make sure that everyone understands the implications of finance. There are some great finance partners. There are also some that charge what are called dealer fees, and a dealer fee is a finance fee on top, and it's usually buried into the cost of the system. Now, we say that because many customers think that they want the lowest rate. So in this example, you can see at the top there, if you want a 3.99% interest rate, which sounds right, and as consumers, we say we're supposed to try to get the lowest interest rate, you're actually going to pay a 32% dealer fee to get a 3.99% interest rate. So that 32% is rolled into or baked into the cost of the system. So artificially, the system has become much more expensive. Now, if you went down to the bottom, 20-year loan, solar loan, you might pay 9.99%, but you get almost no dealer fee or 1.99% dealer fee. Solar leases will be a super interesting development coming into 2026. We haven't got a lot of information on this, but there will still be a 30% investment tax credit available to the leaseholder. So, for example, if I purchased a solar system and I wanted to lease it from the leasing company, I would pay a fixed fee. I would likely get some amount of that 30% tax credit that the leaseholder is going to take. It would buy down or lower the cost of the system that I'm leasing, which would save me some money. So we're going to stay tuned on this one because we don't have all the details on solar lease, but there will be some opportunities that will make solar more affordable for our Kansans and people around. So in conclusion, we like to say, you can see the hand in the lower left, this is where most people are that don't have solar and they're 100% dependent on the grid. So whatever happens in the grid to the grid, prices, brownouts, blackouts, no matter what, I like to say, if it was water skiing, someone's driving the boat and you're at the end of the ski rope and you're just going to hold on for dear life. You have no control of what's happening. The trend that we see is going to be we become less dependent on the grid and more dependent on solar. And so as rates go up, we get to a point, if you go all the way to the far right, where we have a low electric bill or no electric bill. We might have the basic connection fee, but we avoid the high electric bill with 100% reliance on the grid. And so the trend, again, as we talked earlier, is going to be homes and businesses around the country with a high percentage of their electricity needs coming from a solar array on the rooftop. That's going to be the trend, and then supported by batteries. And then if rates go up 10, 20, 30, 50% over the next several years, it doesn't affect the homeowner much at all. You can lock in your current rates of energy with solar and batteries. This is another graph we just love, that solar over time is fixed at a fixed price. If you are renting your power from the utility bill or utility company, you're going to pay the going rate, and that will be variable. And there are mechanisms, financial and great equipment that will allow you to lock in the cost of your energy needs today. Timeline process. We believe in making sure our customers have all the information. We encourage our customers to get a couple quotes. We think that it's a great opportunity for our team to shine and to be good at educating and answering questions and be consultative and collaborative salespeople. And we think that when people get multiple quotes, that will come out in the end. So we do a site survey and gathering information. We'll do our design, any engineering that's required for the solar array. We'll get permits if those are required. That can take from a few days, could in some cases take several weeks. We then install the system using our master electrician and our team. We do everything in-house. We do not sub that work out. We get inspections and what's called permission to operate, PTO. And then we set the system up, make sure the monitoring is going, that you have all the documents you need, and that your system's operational. We're always here after the sale to support you as you learn about your system and its limitations and what it will produce and what it doesn't produce. And I say it that way because we tell people you should watch your system for 12 months. Your system is going to produce more energy in August and in March and April than it will in December and January. And so we don't want people to feel like their system is not working in January. It is working, there's just less sunshine. But in other months of the year, you're going to produce a whole lot more energy. So understanding the realistic expectations, and people understand their system's working, they're very pleased with the investment that they've made. We were founded in 1978. We're still in the same location. We were founded back then right on Highway 71 in Rogers, Arkansas. We've been blessed to earn a number of accolades for the team that we've assembled here. We have a great group of people that are committed to customer service and taking ownership in what they do. We are fortunate last year in 2024 to win the Better Business Bureau Torch Award for Ethics, and we're pleased to be recognized for that accomplishment. We go way back, 1975. About then, my father and I installed a solar system on the house we were living at that time. It was early in the days, and we were learning about it, and the fascination of this energy that we started in Solar 101 was apparent, and that fascination continues to this day. And so back in about 1975, I was a helper installing solar on a rooftop. And most recently in about 2019, my father helped me install solar on my rooftop. So a little different system, a little different process, but it's in our blood. We're fascinated by it, and we're intrigued by the opportunities before us and how we can help our customers and help people make great investments and continue to grow this economy. This is a great picture of a system we did in 2006 and a similar picture in 2024. This was a job up in Springfield, Missouri, still producing electricity as it did back then, and they've added since then too. So we're here for the long haul. This is our team. This is the heart and soul of why we're a successful organization and why we're just passionate about taking care of our customers. We've got great people committed to helping you and to walk you through the process of adding solar batteries to your home or business. And that ends our seminar today. Appreciate you spending almost an hour with us. If there's anything that we can do to help you in your growing knowledge about solar, batteries, clean energy, the grid, legislation, you name it, we're here to help. And if we don't have the answers, we'll help you try to find those. And with that being said, I hope you have a great day and join us for an upcoming seminar in the days to come.